Good morning. Today's Amud, today's daf, is daf Yud Gimel 13 Menachos, and we're going to pick up where we left off yesterday in daf Yud Beis, Amud Beis, and 12b at the Mishnah. It's about 2/3 of the way down the page. We're continuing discussing how a person can make pigol out of a mincha. And again, it's in place. I want to make sure that we get this. I may not have been as clear yesterday as I should have been in terms of what's necessary to make pigol. I know that afterwards we had to clarify a few things, but again, it's going to be very important for today's year to understand that there are different avodos that are done in the process of a carbon, which are called a matir. Matir, literally, the literal translation of the word matir means to untie. And we use the word matir, mutter, heter. They're all different words with different words which are describing untying something. Either it's a verb or it's describing something which already is untied, something which is mutter. It's untied because your hands are untied, it's permissible. If you are matir something, that's the verb, that's the action of untying it. So when you go to the Rav and ask him a question, can I do the following? And he says, yes, it's okay. He was matir you. He untied you. He permitted you to do it. If it is mutter, it means it's untied. It's mutter to be done. Now, in the process of a carbon, there is an order of how things are done, and you cannot get to step 2 before passing step 1. So, in essence, what you're doing by step 1 is untying your ability to get to step 2. So just to talk in terms of an example. A carbon, the most important part of a carbon is the zrikas hadam, spraying the blood on the mizbeach. Now why is the person going to say as follows? The most important part of a carbon is to spray its blood on the mizbeach. We'll take an IV line, we'll put it into the animal, we'll pull out some blood, and we'll spray the blood on the mizbeach. We'll have a zrikas hadam. The answer is that you cannot do the zrika. The zrika is meaningless without the shchita. You need to first slaughter the animal. Now the shchita is necessary, obviously, because you need to eat the animal. So you can't eat an animal. It's not a kosher animal. It's not a kosher carbon without a shchita. But what I'm pointing at here is that the shchita is not merely a way of getting the blood out. The shchita is matir you to move to the next step. The shchita allows you to proceed to the next step in the carbon. That's called a matir. It's matir the following steps. The zrika, when you do the zrikas hadam, that allows you to burn the emurim that have to be burned on the mizbeach and to eat the carbon. So each step is called a matir. It permits you to go further in the process of the carbon. Every step which permits you to go to the next step is significant. All these significant steps are since they hold significance in the process of the hakrava, of the offering of this carbon, since they are significant, if you were to mess up one of these steps, you messed up a significant role of the carbon, and therefore it becomes pasul. That's what we're discussing in our Mishnayos. Now, in Zvachim, when we're dealing with animal offerings, the carbonos of animals, so the 4 basic avodas that took place were shchita, slaughtering the animal, kabbalas hadam, which is accepting the blood inside the vessel, and then there is holacha, walking the dam to the right place, and then there is the zrikas hadam, which is spraying the blood on the mizbeach. Those are the 4 main components of a carbon. And if a person were to have inappropriate thoughts during any one of those avodos, then the halacha would be, the carbon would be pasul. Now we discussed that there are some opinions that say that certain parts of, or certain ones of those avodas are not always necessary. Halacha, if you were to shech the carbon near the mizbeach, you would not necessarily need to walk the blood there. But we're going to discuss that. But again, in a mincha, we have 4 avodas which are similar. There is the kmitza, which is equal to the shchita, and then there is the kiddush kli, which is similar to Kabbalah. We're going to discuss that also at greater length. There's taking the komets after you take a kometz of the mincha and you put it into the vessel, that's similar to Kabbalah. Then there's the holacha of bringing it to where it needs to go, and then there is the burning of the haktara, the offering it up on the mizbeach, which is similar to the zrika. And if at any one of those times a person will have a machshava, an intention of either eating it at the wrong time or in the wrong place, that would in turn make it pigul. That was yesterday's discussion. The Mishnah continues over here in Daf Yud Beis and Beis, about 2/3 of the way down, 12b, lechol kechatzi zayis ulahakter kechatzi zayis kosher she'nachila v'aktar betzdarfen. Mishnah writes that if a person has intention at the time that he is, let's just say, he's taking off the kmitza, he's taking out his handful of the flour from the carbon mincha, and at that time he says, you know what? I'm going to eat a half a kezayis, the absence of the size of a kezayis, a half of a kezayis tomorrow, which is out of the time frame when you're supposed to eat it. As well, I will burn half a kezayis of the kometz tomorrow. What's the halacha? So again, pigul needs to be thought, when you think about pigul, it has to be on a full kezayis. But here what he did was, he had a chatzi, a machshava, an intention on 1/2 a kezayis to burn it, and 1/2 a kezayis to eat it, both of them out of the time frame when it's supposed to be burnt or eaten. Says the Mishnah, the carbon is kosher, the pigul does not take effect, because you cannot combine eating and burning of the carbon. Says the Gemara, Taima de lecho lahaktir. Mishnah explained to us the reason. The reason why there's no pigul is because what he's doing is he's combining eating and burning of this carbon. You cannot combine those two things. Halechol v'lechol davar she'ein darko lechol mitztari. The Gemara takes a little bit of a leap over here. The Gemara says, okay, the only problem was that one part of this carbon is being eaten and one part is being burned. Let's say I would combine two different parts of the carbon, both of them being eaten by a human being. Except, I thought about something which wasn't supposed to be eaten. What is that? A kometz. Right? Normally the pigul would be, I think I'll eat the shirayim, the leftover after the kometz is taken off. I'll eat that out of its time frame. But what if I would say I'll have a half a kezayis of the shirayim tomorrow, and another half a kezayis of the kometz. I'll eat the kometz tomorrow. That's the davar she'ein darko lechel. You're not supposed to eat the kometz. But it seems that would indeed make the carbon puzzle. It would disqualify the carbon, because ultimately I'm combining two parts of a carbon that are eaten, even though 1/2 is not supposed to be eaten. The Gemara says that's a problem. That can't be. From Katani Reisha, in the Mishnah we learned yesterday, that long Mishnah, one of the halachas that were written over there has to be lechol davar shedarko lechol, ulahaktir davar shedarko lahaktir, which implies, it's actually pretty clear, davar shedarko lechol in, shein darko lechol lo. So in other words, what the Mishnah seems to be, what the Gemara seems to be saying is that what we're deriving from our Mishnah here seems to be in stark contrast to the Mishnah we learned yesterday. Because it seems like the only problem would be if I combine a thought of eating and burning. If I combine the thought of eating and burning, that would disqualify the carbon. However, if I combine a thought of eating half of something which is normal to be eaten by a human being, and half a kezayis of the part of the carbon which is not supposed to be eaten, it would be fine. Yes, as Mishnah said, that's not good. In other words, not good meaning, it's double negative, not good. It's not good pigul, which means it's a kosher carbon. Gemara says, you know what, you're right. Our Mishnah has to be a different opinion. Mantana, Rabbi Yirmiyah Hamani Rabbi Lazarhi. You're right. Our Mishnah is disagreeing with the previous Mishnah. Yesterday's Mishnah says your pigul only takes effect if you thought about eating something which is normally eaten. then it will become pigul. Our Mishnah says it will become pigul even if you think about eating something which is not normally eaten out of its time frame. He puts it into more of an understandable term. In other words, even though it's a davar she'ein darko le'achol, even though it's something which is not normally eaten, it's really only not normally eaten by people, but it is eaten, consumed by the mizbeach. So Rabbi Elazar is of the opinion that you can combine the consumption of the mizbeach and the consumption of the human being, which means if a person has a machshava to eat a half as kezayis of the komets and half a kezayis of the shirayim, that would indeed disqualify the carbon and make it pigul. And he continues the Tanan, Hakamat Semicha Lechel Darvish Ein Darko Lechel, Lahakter Darvish Ein Darko Lahakter kosher. That's the opinion of the Tanakama, because you can't combine the part of the carbon which is normally eaten by people with the part of the carbon which is not normally eaten by people. Rabbi Lezer Poso, Lezer indeed says, yes, you have good pigul here, which means the carbon is going to be pasul. So that's the Gemara's first teretz. A pretty simple, straightforward teretz. You're right, our Mishnah seems to imply that if a person has a machshava to eat both the komets and the shirayim at the wrong time, even though the komets is not normally eaten, nevertheless, it would be pigul, because it's going within the shita of the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, who says you can be mitzarif, you can combine the eating of the mizbeach and the eating of the person to create one whole kezayis of pigul, which would disqualify the carbon. Obviously, the Gemara doesn't really like this teretz so much, because it's not so easy just to create a machlokus between two consecutive mishnayos without any mention of it. We don't want to have a dispute between two mishnayos, which likely really was one long mishnah, and you're just going to have one line in the mishnah which is not within the same opinion of the first mishnah. So therefore Abaya says, Abaya Amar Fil Temer Rabbanan. No, we have to really understand that maybe our mishnah would indeed fit with the opinion of the Rabbanan. Lo Tema, in other words, don't make this diuk. All we did here was, we read a mishnah, a very innocent mishnah, and we made it diuk. We derived from the mishnah a halacha. What we derived from the mishnah was that since it says that the problem, in other words, again, we have to be clear, when I say the problem here, the problem means that there's no pigul. The problem means that it's kosher. The problem with the pigul. Since the Mishnah says the problem with the pigul is that you cannot combine achila and aktara, it must be that if you had two different types of achilos, then it would be fine. That was our diuk. That's what we derived from the Mishnah. Says Abaya, Lo tema halecha v'lecha davar she'ein darko lecha. Don't take that leap. Don't make this diuk and say that if you combine a machshava, an intention of eating a davar she'ein darko lecha, which means the komets, just don't say that. Elaima halecha v'lecha davar she'darko lecha. If a person would combine two different foods that you are supposed to eat, then it would be mitzdarif. In other words, if a person has a machshava on two different parts of the shirayim, on two different half kezesim, that indeed would make pigul. What's it teaching us here? In other words, let me just be clear what it means. When a person has a machshav on two half zeisim of davar sh'darko lecha, a person has for example, the case should be, a person takes off the kmitza, and at the time that he takes off the kmitza, he's thinking, I'll eat a half a kezayis of the shirayim tomorrow, and another half I'll eat today, but I'll eat it in the wrong place. So what he did there was, he had a machshava, both parts are of the shirayim, they're supposed to be consumed by the human being. When I say human being, I mean as opposed to the mizbeach. But he only has a half a kazayas of a chutz l'zmano and a half a kazayas of chutz l'mkomo. That indeed would be pigel. So the Gemara says, what is that teaching me? Why is that such a novel chiddush? It says that very straight out. In other words, you don't have to go ahead and say, I understand from this Mishnah halacha. But halacha was written straight out. Halacha was very clear. It says in the Mishnah, Habhedya Katanila, Lechol Kizayis Bachutz, Ukizayis Lamachar. One Kizayis outside of where you're supposed to, and one outside the time frame. Kizayis Lamachar, Kizayis Bachutz. It just depends on different order. Kichatzi Zayis Bachutz, half a Kizayis outside of the area where you're supposed to eat it. Kichatzi Zayis Lamachar, and a half a Zayis tomorrow. Kichatzi Zayis Lamachar, Kichatzi Zayis Bachutz. Possible. In other words, the Mishnah says very clearly that if you combine 2 half zaysim of something that you're supposed to eat, just one was an intention of eating it out of the boundaries of where you're supposed to eat it, and one of them was out of the time frame when you're supposed to eat it, it's possible. In other words, you have good bona fide pigel here. So it's clear in the Mishnah. There won't be any karas because karas only applies if you have one full zayis of chutz l'zmano. But if you're going to have to get to your pigel by having chutz l'mkomo, that would not be a case of pigel that has kares. So hasul amali. What do we need this diuk for? What are you teaching me that wasn't written straight out in the Mishnah? So if you're telling me, so the way the Gemara is written is a little bit confusing because there's a lot of words that need to be fixed up. So you look at the side the Tzon Kadashim. He writes it as follows: Hasu lamali, ilecha v'lecha davar she'ein darko lechol mereisha sham mina. If you're telling me the halacha of something which is not normally eaten, in other words, a person has a machshava, an intention to eat the komets. You have to understand, a person has a machshava to eat the komets in the wrong time, in the wrong place. What he's thinking is really, it's nothing. It's an empty thought. You don't eat the komets. So that thought is problematic in and of itself. Because you don't eat the komets. So it means absolutely nothing. So harish mishamine, we already know that halacha. Ilecha v'lecha davar she'darko lecha kamashmal d'mitzarav miseifa shamet mina. In other words, either whatever you want to teach me from this Mishnah, whatever your diak is telling me, we know it. Either you're going to tell me it is pigel or not pigel, but we know those halachas already. We go back to the gears of the Gemara. Ilecho lahaktir. If it's teaching me the halacha that you can't be mitzaref achila naktara midyuka dereisha shamet mina. That we learned that from the beginning. Tehashta malechol belechol davar she'ein darko lechol amrit lo mitzaref. Now that you already taught me the halacha that you can't combine 2 different to even things that are eaten, if it's not something which is supposed to be eaten, you can't combine that to create pigel. So lecha lahakta mi boy. In other words, now the Gemara is just asking, so why do you have to teach me the halacha? If we already know that you can't be mitzaref 2 different things which are supposed to be eaten, so then lecha lahakta you have to teach me? The Gemara says in lecha lahakta tzrichale. Ultimately, the whole point of this Mishnah is just to teach me the halacha that you can't be mitzaref, you can't combine something which is supposed to be burnt and something which is supposed to be eaten. Because I would think hasam hu the loiki orche kamachashiv, aval hacha the b'haiki orche kamachashiv, b'haiki orche kamachashiv em l'tzaref kamashmalan. In other words, the Rabbi is just pointing out is in the chiddush of the Mishnah, even though we know that you can't be mitzaref 2 different types of achilas, if one of them is davar she'ein darko lech, it's not normally supposed to be eaten. The Mishnah is teaching me, again, just back up. If I would have thought to eat a half zayis of komets and half zayis of shirayim, it wouldn't be pigel. So why do you have to teach me that if I thought to burn a half a kizayis of komets and half kizayis of shirayim would be pigel? It seems to be the same thing. The Gemara's answer is no. I would say that since ultimately in the case of achila and aktara, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because ultimately I'm burning the komets and I'm eating the shirayim, I would say that yes, that would make pigel, despite the fact that one is achila, one is aktara, one is being eaten, one is being burnt. Comes along the Mishnah to teach me, no. The whole point of the Mishnah is to teach me that even though you're doing what you're supposed to be doing with each one, nevertheless, the pigel does not take effect because one is being eaten by the person, one is being consumed by the mizbeach. Hadron Allah kol menachos. Now we're going to start the parak of Kometz Mincha. So now, just as by way of introduction, there's two prakim called the Kometz Mincha. One is referred to as a Kometz Zuta, the shorter Kometz, simply because it's shorter, about 4 pages long. And then the next one is a Kometz Rabbah. It's got a lot more dafim in that parak. So now we are starting the shorter one. It's really very much a continuation of the same topic. And Mishnah starts as follows: a mincha, a person takes the kmitza of the mincha, and at the time that he takes the kmitza of the mincha, lechal shireha o lahakter kumtza lamachar. He thinks, you know what? I'm going to eat the shirayim. What's left over from the carbon from after the komets, I'll eat that tomorrow. Or you know what? Maybe I'll just burn the komets tomorrow. I'm supposed to burn the komets today. I'll burn the komets tomorrow. Moda Rabbi Yossi bazeh shehu pigel. Strange line. Mishnah starts off telling me Rabbi Yossi agrees. In that case, is going to be pigel. So we'll have to understand what the Mishnah means. How do you start off a statement by saying someone agrees? Where was the dispute to start with? So we're going to see the dispute comes from the end of the Mishnah. The reason why the Mishnah needs to mention this, the Gemara is going to explain to us. And it not only is a pigel, it's real bona fide pigel. There's kares. Again, a person he does the kometz, which is tantamount to the shchita. He does the kometz and he thinks, you know what, I'll burn it tomorrow, or I'll eat the shirayim tomorrow. Pigel b'chiyav of kares, it's pigel and it's chayav kares. Lahaktu levonasa lemachar. The person has in mind at the time of the kmitza to burn the levona tomorrow. Rabbi Yossi Omer pasal v'ein bo kares. It's pasal and there's no kares. Again, so just a reminder of the process. There's the mincha happens, he takes the komets out of the mincha. The komets is burnt. Again, we learned a few days ago that what happens is they have the flour, they'll pour the levona on top of it, and then they're going to move the levona to the side because the kmitza cannot have levona in it. So he moves the levona to the side of the keli. He takes out a kmitza of only flour. That kmitza is burnt, and then they also take some levona out and they burn levona on the mizbeach. So now, if he thinks at the time that he's doing the kmitza, I will burn the levona tomorrow. In that case, Rabbi Yossi says, pasol, the carbon is disqualified, it's pasol. However, ve'emo kares. There is no kares, it's not as strict as the case of having in mind to burn the shirayim tomorrow or to burn the komets tomorrow. V'chacham omrim, Chum disagree, they say pigel v'chayavan of kares. If a person has in mind at the time that he's taking the kmitza, he's going to burn the levona tomorrow, it's pigel and it's chayav kares. So Amr Lo, the Chacham continue with your statement. They said to Rabbi Yossi, Mashina zeven hazevach. Why should this mincha be any different than a regular carbon? In other words, if at the time of a person is shechting a carbon, at the time the person is slaughtering a chatas or any other carbon, he thinks, you know what? I'm going to spray the blood tomorrow. It would be possible. Or I'll burn the emurim tomorrow. It would be possible. Amar lahem shazevach damai ubesarai ve'emurav echad u'levona einam in a mincha. Yosef makes a very dramatic statement, and he says a carbon, all the different aspects of the carbon, the blood of the carbon, the meat of the carbon, the emurim, Well, the insides of the carbon, they're all one thing. They're all part of the carbon. However, levona is not part of the mincha. Levona is not part of the mincha, and therefore, if a person is going to have an illegitimate thought about the levona, it would not mess up the carbon.
You need it. It's not like frosting.
Yeah. Yes, we need it. It's necessary. The Gemara is going to explain on Yugimel Amud Beis what he meant by Eina Mina Mincha. So the Gemara says, the Gemara right away starts off with the kasha. Lama li lemis mod Rabbi Yossi bezu. Now the Gemara is really essentially asking the question: what do you mean? Why? If there's no machlokus, so why are we just mentioning Rabbi Yossi agrees here? The Gemara says, "Mishum tekaboy lemisni seifa lahak to levonatz lemachar Yossi Omar pasavei makaras." So mao de tema tamed Rabbi Yossi mishum tekasavri mefagim chatzi matir rafila reishanami kamash malan. So sorry, I just read a whole bunch of words all at once. I'll explain it now in greater detail. The Mishnah understood that if we just mention the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, it's very, very possible that we'll make a mistake in the understanding of the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, and we're going to end up with an erroneous halacha. If we would have just started the Mishnah by the line which says, and we would skip the first line and a half and write lahakter levonasa lemachar. If a person takes off the komets with intention to burn the levon, the frankincense tomorrow, and then say Rabbi Yossi says there's no kares there, I would say the reason why Rabbi Yossi said that is because he holds of a concept called ein mefaglin b'chatzi matir. This is something which we have to get these terminologies down pat, because it's going to come up a lot. It came up in Zvachim as well, but ein mefaglin b'chatzi matir means that a person needs to have the intention of pigul throughout the entire matir. In other words, that's what ein mefaglin b'chatzi matir means. We would have thought that's true. We would have thought that the reason for Rabbi Yossi is because he believes you have to have the machshava, the intention of pigul, throughout the entire matir. And that would have been a mistake. Therefore, what we said was, we preempt everything by saying, let me first tell you something. Rabbi Yossi says, he agrees if a person does kmitza, hakamatz the minachalecha shirea, o lahakter kumatzu lamachar, in that case, Rabbi Yossi agrees. So then, in other words, the reason behind Rabbi Yossi is not because he is of the opinion of in fagim chatzi mater. In other words, you wanted to make sure you wouldn't think that. Let's just see that again inside. Ma'u detema. I would have thought to say, I would have thought the reason of Rabbi Yossi is because he's of the opinion you cannot create pigul by only thinking about it in a half a matir. Afilu reisha nami, even in the first case of lahakta levonasa lamachar kamash malan, that no, the bahamoda, Rabbi Yossi agrees that if a person does the komets almanas on the condition to be makter the komets tomorrow, then it would have indeed been pigul. Okay, so now we have to figure out what indeed is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. If we just X'd out the reasoning of the Eim Fagim Chatzi Matir, what is his opinion? So the Gemara continues. Lahak levonasa lemachar, if he has in mind to burn the levona tomorrow, Yossi Omer Pasal Vein Mekaris, the carbon is Pasal, and there is no Karis. Amar Reish Lakish. Amar Hayir Rabbi Yossi, Ein Mater Mefaglas Mater. Another very important terminology that you have to get down pat for the sugya of pigul. He says the reason for Rabbi Yossi is because one matir cannot ruin another matir. In other words, each one of these fundamental avodos in the process of the carbon are independent. You cannot ruin another one through a thought. Let's just take A, B, and C. If you have matir A, matir B and matir C, you cannot ruin matir B with an intention in matir A. One of them, about it. In other words, a kometz, if you want to ruin a kometz, you have to do the kometz. But at the time that you're taking the kometz, you think, I will spoil the kometz. I will burn the kometz tomorrow. In such a case, you would ruin it. But you can't take a kometz and say, you know what, I'm going to do this kometz with intention to ruin the levona. They're two different parts of the carbon. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Your pigel needs to be, I'm being matir the carbon with this kometz, and I'm going to ruin the kometz.
You're going to be mefago, you're going to just make a puzzle.
We're talking about, pigel.
So mefago, so you have to have all three of them, essentially.
Well, 1 second. Rabbi Yossi still says the carbon's puzzle,
Yeah.
but there's no karas. Whether it's a psul midaraisa, psul midrabanan, we'll see. It does become more clear in the Gemara. But ultimately, he holds it's going to be puzzle. But to create real bona fide pigel, you have to have a machshava in that matir for that matir. You cannot spoil one matir through another matir. Let's just look at Rashi for a second. In the third line of Rashi, Ein matir mefagel samatir. Ein avodas matir zeh. The avoda, the work of this matir kagon, kometz moelas, doesn't work lefagel matir ha'acher, to ruin another matir, which is the levona. B'machshava shu machashiv al levona b'avodas kometz. In other words, you cannot mix up the different avodas. The levona is one matir, the kometz is another matir. You cannot ruin the levona with your ill thoughts on your kometz. And the same thing is true with shnei bezich levona. What is this again? Shnei bezich levona. These 2 spoons of levona, of frankincense, that set on the shulchan. They would burn them, and then afterwards the lechem hapanim would become what to eat. Same thing is true there. If you have a thought about one spoon on the other one, you can't. In other words, it's a time that you're burning one spoon of levana. You say, I'll burn the next one tomorrow. That's not going to ruin it, because they're 2 different material. Why do you need to reiterate what you just said? What was the importance of saying the same halacha a second time with a second example? Gemara says, I would have thought to say, Taimed Rabbi Yossi, the reason behind the opinion of Rabbi Yossi is the levon mishum de lav mina de minchi, because, in other words, ultimately the real reason why Rabbi Yossi said that there's no pigel by kometz and levona is because ultimately levona is not really part of the mincha. Again, we'll define that soon. Avo b'shnei bezich levona demina dadadinenu. Shnei bezich levona, they're exactly the same thing, just 2 different spoons. Ema mefagel adadi. I would say that maybe actually 1 spoon of the levona can ruin the other one. Kamash malan, that even though they're both levona, they're both the same thing, they're just 2 different ones. Kamash malan, that it still one cannot ruin the next. More challenges that Gemara says, Mimatzis Amar Tamad Rabbi Yossi b'levona lav mishum de lav mina de minchahi. In other words, now that we got here, that is the reason for Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi told us in the Mishnah the reason why there's no pigel from kometz to levona is because the levona is not mina de mincha. It's not part of the mincha. That's what he told us in the Mishnah. Vakatani Seifet says at the end of the Mishnah, Amrulo, Mashinza min hazevach. Why is mincha any different than a regular carbon of an animal? Amar lahen, hazevach damo besar ve'murav echad. Rabbi Yossi told the Chachamim that in a carbon, the dam, the blood, the basar, the flesh, the murim, well, the insides of the carbon, they're all one thing. Levona ain't a mincha. Levona is not part of the mincha. So how can you tell me that the 2 spoons of the frankincense are the same thing as kometz and levana? They're not. The 2 spoons, the shnei bezich levana on the shulchan, they are the same thing, and therefore they should be different than a kometz and levona. Because clearly Rabbi Yossi tells us in the Mishnah that the reason why he says there's no pigel from kometz to levona is because levona is not part of the mincha. So it is indeed true. So what do you mean v'chein ata omer b'shnei bezich levona? Why are you telling me the halacha is the same by 2 spoons of levona? It shouldn't be the same. Gemara says, "My enem in a mincha." You misunderstood this line of enem in a mincha. Enem in a mincha means eno be'ikov mincha. It's not me'akev. It doesn't interfere with the mincha, which means the lav ki hechi de me'akev lu kometz l'shirayim. It's a little hard wording over here. If it's not the same as shirayim, which is that if you're not makdir the kometz, you can't eat the shirayim. The kama de lo miskater kometz, as long as the kometz is not burnt, lo misachli shirayim, you cannot eat the leftovers. So hachanami makav lo lavona. Gemara's really asking a question. Hold on a second. What does that mean? You're telling me it's not be'ikov mincha. What it means that the levona is eina min mincha. What it means is that the levona does not affect, does not interfere with the carbon. Gemara says, what do you mean? If you're not makdid the levona, you can't eat the shirayim. So what do you mean? You try to get yourself out of hot water, you put yourself into another pot of hot water. You said it's not part of the mincha. Gemara says, of course it's part of the mincha. So what does it mean? No, it's not ma'akiv. It doesn't ruin the mincha. It does. If you're not makdid the levona, you don't burn the levona, you can't eat the shirayim. Ella, what the Gemara means by ein be'ikov mincha, what it means is el iboy hay makter bereisha, v'iboy hay makter bereisha. There's no particular order of which one has to be burnt first. You could burn the kometz first, you can burn the levona first. So Rabbanon ki amrinon ein matir mefagel samatir. In other words, we've settled it. Well, at this point, we understand the opinion of Rabbi Yossi is the reason why there's no pigel in the second case is because you can't ruin one matir with another matir. And that we explain why he reiterated the halacha with Shnei Bezich Levona, because they're very much the same. Whereas when it comes to the Kometz and Levona, they're not makiv each other. So Rabbanon, now the Rabbanon said there is pigel. You can ruin a carbon by thinking at the time of the Kometz that you eat the Levona tomorrow. Rabbanon ki arminan ein matir mefagel matir. When is this halacha true that one matir cannot disqualify another matir? Skip the parentheses. Hanimili heicha delo ikvu b'chad mana. That's only when they weren't put together in one keli. Aval heicha ikvu b'chad mana, where they were put together in one keli. For example, by carbon mincha, the kometz and levona are all in the same keli. In such a case, kechadami, we consider them as one, and therefore the kometz can indeed ruin the levona. They are interconnected. Amar of Yanai, likit levona bezar pasal. If a levona takes if a zar, a non-kohen, takes the levona out of the keli, then it's pasal. Again, what happened? They would do the kmitza on the flour, and then afterwards they would just take the levona out and they would burn it. Now what he's saying is a simple halacha. If a Yisrael took his hand and took the levona out of the keli, he disqualifies it. He ruins it. The Gemara says, "My timer. What's the reason?" Because he got involved in the avoda of holacha. There are 4 processes in the hakrava of a mincha. There's kmitza, there's kiddush kli, there's holacha, and there's haktara. You do the kmitza, you take the handful, then you put it into the vessel, and then you will walk it, and then you'll burn it. So what he's saying is, when Yisrael takes the levona out of the bowl, what he did was, he did holacha. And he's explaining, because Savar is of the opinion, holacha shlo b'regel shma holacha, bringing something closer to the mizbeach, even if he didn't actually walk it, but the fact that he brought it closer to the hakrava, that ruins it. Let's consider halacha. Holacha bezar psula, having a zar, a non-kohen, walk the carbon closer to the mizbeach, that ruins it. Amar of Mari, afanana mitinin. We learned the same thing in the Mishnah. Zaklal kol hakometz. one who does the kmitza. V'nosim bekeli, which is similar to the Kabbalah. V'hamolech, someone who does the halacha. V'hamakdir, and one who burns it. Those are all the four processes of a carbon. So bishlama kometz, we can understand kometz. Hainu shochet, that's exact same. That's equal to shchita. That's the same process of shchita. Molech, walking it. Hainu molech, it's walking it. Maktir, hainu zorek, burning it on the mizbeach. That's the same thing as spraying the blood on the mizbeach. Elanosim bekli, putting it in the keli. Maika avid, what did he do? If you're going to tell me that putting the komets into the keli is similar to Kabbalah, midami, is it similar? In the case of Kabbalah, you check the animal. Naturally, what happens is the blood just sprays out of its neck and goes into the keli. Here, he's actually physically putting it in. Ella, the Gemara says, you know why it's similar? You're right. It's not Kabbalah, but it is so significant. You cannot have the carbon without doing it, so it's considered an avodah, even though it's not the same thing as Kabbalah. And al karchach mash v'leika Kabbalah. We just make it like Kabbalah because it's so significant. So achanavi kimad lo sagli lo avid la avodah chashuvahi al karchach mash v'leika kehalacha. The same thing when a zar takes the levona out of the bowl, since it's so important for it to be done, we consider it to be halacha. Gemara says, lo olam d'dami l'Kabbalah. Really, putting the komets into the keli is similar to Kabbalah. With the kakash ilachasim amelach kashakal, you're going to ask me by normal Kabbalah, the blood sprays on its own, and here the Kohen actually has to physically put it into the keli. Hacha kashakal v'rami mechti tarvar kedushas klihu ma'alamela ma'alishakal v'rami. Who cares? What's the difference how it gets there? The point of Kabbalah is that the blood goes into a keli and gets sanctified inside that keli. So same thing, well, who cares if the blood got in because naturally it's sprayed out of the neck or because you put it in? We'll stop here at the Mishnah for today and Dr. Gimel Medbeis.